Hi everyone, thank you for being here and eating our delicious vegan food from El Grain Cafe. Dr. Armani May here is the founder of Veterinary Association for the Protection of Animals, and I am part of the board of directors, and we are very happy to give this presentation in front of you all beautiful people. So the theme of our presentation today is plant-based for the planet and our health. This is a little bit of the content of the presentation. It's going to be divided in two parts. I'm going to speak about the environment, and Armani is going to speak about our health. First, a little background. I was raised and born in Oaxaca, Mexico, as everyone knows. Then I moved 8 hours away and studied veterinary school in Universidad Veracruzana. Then I went to Sydney, Australia, and I studied a master's in wildlife conservation. And after that, I moved to Quincy, Florida, and I volunteer work and managed San Francisco Wildlife Association. I was a wildlife rehabilitator for 2 years, licensed by the Fish and Wildlife Florida Commission. And as you can see, I've always had a special love and passion for wild animals and animals. I became a vegetarian when I was 15. I told my parents I didn't want to eat my patients anymore. So that's how I started. So this is a little picture of my diploma of my Master's of Wildlife Conservation, and the reason why I'm showing it to you is because first I didn't like my Master's, I thought it was stupid, but then I realized I learned a lot of important things, and this is what made me go vegan. So one of the classes that I had was Sustainable Development, and I didn't know this, but Sustainable Development actually is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So, the big question for me during my master's degree was, is livestock sustainable in 2017? Well, back then it was 2009. But we need to ask ourselves, well, first we need to know we raise about 9 billion animals only in the United States. And do anybody knows what percentage of those animals are actually raised on factory farms? Anybody? It's 99% of these animals are raised in factory farms. So one of the documents that I came up when I was studying my master's, and I use a lot as a reference for all my essays, was this document by the United Nations published in 2006. This document actually says that raising cattle actually produces more greenhouse gases than driving cars. This document is about 100 pages. It's a report called Livestock Long Shadow. And let's talk a little bit about that document and what it says about the atmosphere and climate. So according to this document, factory farm actually contributes 18% to greenhouse gases. That's all cars, trucks, trains, boats, and airplanes all combined. That makes up more than 18%. But in 2009, the World Watch, an organization and independent research institute devoted to global environmental concerns, actually stated that factory farm actually contributes to 51%. That means if 20% of the USA eat 20% less meat, it will be the same impact as switching everyone from a sedan to a hybrid car. Let's talk a little bit about water. So water, we tend to focus on the domestic use, like don't take long showers, don't waste water, watering your plants. In the USA, domestic use actually, it counts for 5%. Animal agriculture counts for 55% of water. That's to water all the crops that the livestock eats, plus the water that they drink. And that makes about 2,500 gallons of water per pound of beef. What about the fossil fuel industry? There's a lot about it in all environmental groups on the internet. They just talk about fossil fuels. Well, fossil fuels actually use 100 billion gallons of water. But if we compare it to 34 trillion gallons that the livestock uses, it really is nothing. So it's about 660 gallons per burger. That equivals to 2 months of showering. That's almost like if you were by your neighbors and you were seeing your neighbor filling this sweet little swimming pool, and spill over and over and over for 660 pounds, like all the water spilling around the neighborhood. I think somebody in this room will say, can you just please turn it off? So that's hamburger. So with that said, animal agriculture actually contributes or consumes 1/3 of our all fresh water. What about land degradation? So according to this document, 70%, livestock uses 70% of agricultural land and 30% of land surface on the planet. That's huge. That means that about 2 acres of rainforest in the world are cleared every minute to make room for cattle and feed crops for cattle. That contributes to 91% of Amazon destruction. It's the leading cause of species extinction, the leading cause of habitat destruction, and it occupies, with all the activities of livestock, 45% of Earth's land. What about fishing? Well, fishing is not as benign as everyone thinks. Let's think about to supply the demand of fish in the world, most fisheries use these massive nets. So for every pound of fish caught, there's 5 pounds of by-kill species, which are whales, dolphins, sea turtles, sharks, and other species that we don't even eat. If we would do that into the land, let's say the African savanna, and the target is gazelles, and in that way we just caught all elephants, lions, ostriches, and giraffes, nobody will support this. And still we do this to our oceans every single day. It's been estimated by 2048 we're going to have fishless oceans. Let's talk about waste. So in the United States only, we produce 130 times more poop than the human population. This is a factory farm. Also, we call it CAFO, Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations. You cannot tell, but there's a ton of animals concentrated, crowded in these little buildings. And do you know what is that? It's called a cesspool or a lagoon. And that's where all the waste, the poop, the blood drains. Of course, we cannot see that, but this is how animals live in those little tiny buildings. And as you can see right here, there's a little farm with their little respective lagoon. There's a little bit of a body of water right there, and easily drains in there. And that's also cause number 1 of ocean death. Why? Because of the poop runoff. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that there's about 35,000 pounds of feces, and in 3 years we kill 13 million fishes. Also, the other reason why there's ocean dead zones is because of pesticides. So pesticides are, meat production accounts for over 1/3 of pesticides used, and we poison wildlife, workers, we kill bees and butterflies. So that's how oceanic dead zones happen. So we can conclude that agriculture is the leading cause of ocean dead zones, as we talk, because of the poop and the pesticides. This guy called Mark Debris, he actually did his own fundraising to buy these drones, which are flying cameras. And he went and did this undercover investigation in North Carolina. This is one of 2,000 pig farms in North Carolina. And again, this is another cesspool or lagoon with the respective feces and blood and all the waste from this farm. This is another one, and this is another one, and I can go, there's about 2,000. They belong to either Tyson or Smithfield farms. And if you guys don't believe me, you can go online and look, and do you know what they do with all this waste? They actually mist it. And if you go online, you can actually see interviews with all these people that live around here, where cancer, pneumonia, allergies, and other horrible diseases are increasing because of these minuscule particles of feces and waste. This is the website. If you guys don't believe me, you can go and check it by yourself. This guy is really cool, and he did all of these volunteering to show people what is happening in North Carolina only. Finally, let's compare diets. So the land used by one vegan person per year is 1/6 of an acre. A vegetarian diet is about 3 times, so that's about half an acre. A meat eater, actually, it's about 18 times, and that equivalents to about 3 acres. And that's because 1.5 acre will produce 37,000 pounds of vegetables that will be fed to animals, so they can produce 375 pounds of meat. So what about the free-range beef? Is it sustainable? So this is a little bit of maths. We calculated that about 4,500 acres of land with grass-fed cattle will produce 80,000 pounds of meat, which it's about average American will consume 209 pounds per year. So this area will be enough for 382 people. That will be 11.7 acres. If we calculate the population of the USA, that's 314 million persons in the US, we will need 3.7 billion acres. The United States only has 1.9 billion acres. Already, we use on livestock activities about half of the US territory. If we all eat grass-fed beef, this is what we need. We will need the entire US, part of Canada, all Mexico, and possibly half of South America. And that doesn't even count of areas that are not suitable to raise cattle. We will have to clear all mountains, national parks, cities, etc. Plus, in 2015, it was calculated that livestock activities kill about 3.2 million animals. So let's talk about the footprint of diets. Comparing a vegan diet with an omnivore diet, it's about 1/2 of CO2, 1/11 of oil or fossil fuels, 1/13 of water, and 1/18 of land. Let's talk a little bit finally about human consumption of water and food. So in one day, all humans in the world consume about 5.2 billion gallons of water and 21 billion pounds of food. If we compare the consumption against livestock consumption, it's huge. It's 45 billion gallons of water and 135 billion pounds of food compared. So it's not really a human population problem, it's a human eating animals population problem. So the true cost of a burger, it's about 28,000 liters of water. That's enough for 90 showers. 13.5 kilograms of CO2, that's about driving 50 miles on a car, or 72 kilograms of the Amazon forest, just one burger. So per day, a vegan will save 1,100 gallons of water, 45 pounds of grain, 30 square feet forest, 20 pounds of CO2, and 1 animal's life. And I'm gonna pass the voice to Dr. Almighty.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo. It's great to be here. Thank you for joining us today to learn about the benefits of a vegan diet. I'm Dr. Almighty May. I'm a house call veterinarian in Los Angeles. I've been vegan for about 18 years, and it was the best decision I ever made. I was raised vegetarian thanks to my mother, whose father, my grandfather, had witnessed a pig being slaughtered, and after that point vowed never again to eat land animals. So I was lucky enough to be raised vegetarian, and then when I read a book called Diet for a New America by John Robbins, it really opened my eyes to the cruelty as well as environmental degradation and health problems associated with eating dairy and eggs in addition to meat. So I cut out all eggs and dairy at that point, and I've been vegan and doing great for the last 18 years. So today I'm going to just talk to you a bit about the health aspect of being vegan. We'll cover some of the health issues surrounding dairy, cholesterol and heart disease, cancer, toxins and antibiotic residue, anatomical differences between true omnivores and herbivores or frugivores, as well as protein, fiber, and how to transition successfully to a plant-based diet. According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is formerly known as the American Dietetic Association, a well-balanced, whole foods, plant-based diet that emphasizes fresh fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains drastically reduces one's risk of heart disease, stroke, obesity, hypertension, and cancers of the breast, prostate, and colon. The position of the American Dietetic Association said that these vegetarian diets, which include total vegetarian or vegan diets, are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may actually provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases, including type 2 diabetes. Well-planned vegetarian diets are appropriate for all individuals during all life stages, and this includes pregnancy, lactation, adolescence, and for athletes. Here's a website, veganbodybuilding.com, which shows there are a lot of bodybuilders out there who are vegan, and a lot of athletes who are doing really impressive feats. Scott Jurek is an ultramarathon runner. Mac Danzig is a mixed martial arts champion, completely 100% plant-based. In fact, some of them credit improved performance with their plant-based diets, as they're able to recover faster, improve endurance. David Carter is a former NFL player, and he got rid of a lot of aches and pains after going vegan and bulked up even more. He's now 300 pounds. He calls himself a 300-pound vegan. So there are different types of vegetarian diets. There's lacto-ovo vegetarian, who doesn't eat meat but may include eggs and dairy products. Ovo-vegetarian, lacto-vegetarian, and vegan, who is a person who doesn't eat any animal products, no fish, meat, fowl, eggs, dairy, honey, and most vegans also exclude wearing animal products as part of a broader lifestyle that avoids harming other living beings as far as feasible. How many of you have heard of the China Project? A few people over there? Great. So this is one of the most comprehensive, broadest studies of nutrition in humans ever conducted. It was conducted by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and they measured the diets and disease outcomes of many different people across China in different regions. And one of the interesting things is, since China has a fairly homogeneous genetic population, the main differences were found in what they were eating. And that pointed towards what their disease outcomes would be. So the conclusions they came up with were very fascinating and showed that by eating a plant-based diet, one can drastically reduce risk of mortality from cardiovascular disease and several forms of cancer. So we're going to talk a little bit about dairy. Many people are under the impression they need to have dairy in order to have strong bones, and this is not the case. There are really good plant sources of calcium out there that actually are healthier for your body than dairy is. Interestingly, osteoporosis is actually found to be in the lowest incidences in countries where less dairy is consumed than here in the West, where we have much higher consumption of dairy but a lower rate of, actually higher rate of osteoporosis. So some of the foods that have good sources of calcium in the plant kingdom include kale, oops, didn't mean to do that, kale, beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, and these are really yummy. You can just steam them and add salsa and hummus, fortified plant milks like soy milk, and sesame seeds. Dairy protein is a major cause of food allergies. It's meant for turning an 80-pound calf into a 400 or 800-pound heifer or steer, not to give to a human. So we've heard the phrase, the milk is the perfect food, but really cow's milk is the perfect food for calves, but not for humans. Dairy also leads to a lot of allergies, asthma, colds, ear infections, and has even been linked to type 1 diabetes. Dairy products can stimulate the production of something called insulin-like growth factor, which is actually a tumor promoter. It promotes cancers of the breast, prostate, colon, lung, and pancreas. Here's a map depicting global levels of lactose intolerance. The darker regions correspond to greater percentages of lactose intolerant people. So especially in South America, Africa, and particularly Asia, we see very high rates of lactose intolerance. So it's no wonder that people are having problems with dairy when it's from a cow. It's not supposed to be food for humans. And this goes regardless of whether it's organic or conventional. I had the opportunity to testify on a court case last year in which there was abuse or neglect of pigs, as it turned out, on an organic, certified humane organic pig farm, yet these pigs were being denied the medications they needed and some died as a result. And this goes to show that even if something is humanely raised, so to speak, or organic, doesn't mean that it's any better. In fact, in some cases it may be worse if they're denying medications the animals need. And you're still ending up with cholesterol, saturated fat, and inappropriate ratio of proteins. Now we're going to talk about cholesterol and heart disease. Does everyone know that cholesterol is only found in animal products? So we have an epidemic of high cholesterol in this country where people are on all kinds of medications like Lipitor to try to reduce their cholesterol. But people who only consume plant foods have naturally healthier cholesterol levels. So one of the things the China Project discovered was that a high blood cholesterol level was consistently associated with higher risk of many cancers, including leukemia, liver, colon, rectum, lung, and brain cancer. Cholesterol levels in China range from 90 to 170 milligrams per deciliter, but in the United States, that range is much higher, from 170 to 290. It's no wonder that we have worse disease outcomes, and we'll talk about that later too. So this is showing a comparison between beef and chicken. Some people are under the mistaken impression that chicken is a healthier meat. It simply is not true. Chicken has almost as much cholesterol per ounce as beef. And this cholesterol is very damaging. Even if someone appears fit and healthy on the outside, we see time and again people having heart disease, which is called the silent killer, because they literally are dropping dead in some cases due to a heart attack because their arteries are filled with these plaques. Plus we have all these hormones in here, estrogen and testosterone, that are naturally endogenously present in the animal tissue. Regardless of whether or not there are added hormones, there are always intrinsic hormones present in the animal tissue. Heart disease is at an epidemic level in this country. In fact, children start having heart disease when they eat these unhealthy foods from a young age. 1 in 2 adult men is dying of a heart attack. And the incidence of deaths from heart disease is actually 17 times higher among American men compared to the Chinese. But I do have some good news, and that is that heart disease can not only be prevented through a plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle, it can actually be reversed. And this has been shown that patients following a low-fat, plant-based, whole foods diet can completely reverse their heart disease. And we see here this narrowing, this angiogram showing the narrowing of the artery due to coronary artery disease. And simply through dietary intervention, switching to a whole foods plant-based diet, the artery was able to heal. I mean, isn't that phenomenal? This wasn't from medications. This is dietary intervention, reversal of coronary artery disease. Let's talk about cancer. That's another big one. Well, it turns out dairy and milk contributes to the risk of colon and breast cancers. There's a cancer promoter that is turned on by animal protein, so that by eating animal products, the cancer grows. It is turned off by plant protein, even if cancer has already initiated. So the optimal amount of protein in a diet should be 8 to 12% of calories. If someone is really, really athletic, maybe they'll be on the higher end of that. But for most people, that's an appropriate range for protein in the diet, and that can easily be attained through plant sources. The World Health Organization declared that processed meat is a group 1 carcinogen, which places it in the same category as tobacco, asbestos, and plutonium. Yet we're feeding it to our children. And the breast cancer rates are affected by this as well. 1 in 8 American women is affected by this disease. The death rate for breast cancer is 5 times the rate in China, here in the United States. Deaths from breast cancer are associated with 5 factors: high dietary fat intake, high blood cholesterol, high blood estrogen, high blood testosterone, and early age at first menstruation. The more animal foods in a girl's diet, the earlier her first menstruation will occur, and the more time in her life she will be exposed to these hormones, which increases her risk. And we have seen that over the years. Earlier and earlier ages of puberty, which increases the risk for breast cancer. Countries with the highest rates of meat consumption have the highest rates of breast cancer. Similar story with prostate cancer. 1 in 10 American men will get prostate cancer at some point in their lives. Eating animal protein, particularly dairy protein, increases the testosterone level to unhealthy levels, which triggers rapid growth of prostate cancer, whereas a low-fat, high-fiber, plant-based diet keeps testosterone at healthy levels. The highest fat diets are associated with 80% more advanced prostate cancer compared to eating the least fat. This shows a graphic of what it would be like if we actually treated meat the way cigarettes are treated in terms of the cancer risk. They're just as carcinogenic, yet there's a common practice of feeding processed meats to children, and there aren't warning labels on the food, but there should be. Now let's talk about toxins and antibiotic residue, which is another really important issue. Dioxin exposure comes mostly through animal product consumption. In fact, 93% of it. That means that all those toxins in their tissues are getting concentrated, and when you eat that animal, you're getting it concentrated into your tissues. It's even worse for someone who's pregnant eating animal products, because all those toxins are going straight to the fetus at a very crucial time when that fetus is developing. Fish eat other fish, which are eaten by yet other fish, leading to biomagnification and concentration of the toxins. So then we have a situation where over 80% of fish in the oceans have a toxic load of mercury in them, and that's why they don't recommend it for pregnant women. But really, no one should be eating this because it's accumulating in our tissues, and it does lead to neurotoxicity, increased risk for cancer. It's not worth it. Excessive antibiotic use in the livestock industry leads to antibiotic resistance. We see 80% of the antibiotics used in livestock, and it's not usually for medicinal purposes. It's most of the time done to fatten them even faster than they would naturally, so that profits are maximized and they can send them to slaughter at a sooner age. And the problem with this is that it's leading to severe antibiotic resistance, which is making it hard for people to get treatment sometimes when they have an infection that legitimately does require antibiotics. The severe overcrowding of fish in farms also enhances this issue of antibiotic resistance, because they're constantly needing to add more antibiotics to counteract the filthy environment they're kept in. Similarly, in overcrowded turkey and other bird facilities, they're more at risk for salmonella and other foodborne illnesses because of the crowding and stress the animals are going through. So let's talk about anatomy and the differences between an omnivore and a frugivore, who's a fruit-eating organism. You can see there are definite canines that are pronounced, pointy, sharp teeth meant for shearing, tearing flesh, and there's an up and down motion of the jaw, no sideways or horizontal motion, compared to a frugivore who has flattened molars meant for grinding plants, seeds, and leaves, and no pointy, sharp canines, and the ability to move from side to side in the grinding process. There are vast differences in our digestive system as well. A frugivore, such as a human, has a long, convoluted intestinal tract that is 9 times the body length, compared to a true carnivore or omnivore has 3 times the length of the body. And it's a shorter GI tract because they want to get rid of the toxic waste as fast as possible so it doesn't putrefy in the colon. So which one are we closer to? definitely a frugivore. Now, a lot of people have questions about protein. Where do you get your protein? Well, there are plenty of plant sources of protein available. And it turns out that most Americans get twice as much protein as they should be getting, and it puts a strain on the kidneys. It's unhealthy in many other ways, and they're not getting enough fiber. So most Americans get 15 grams of fiber, but they should be getting at least 30 grams of fiber a day. Where do you find fiber? Exclusively from plant foods. Fiber and antioxidants are the plant's miracle compounds. Antioxidants are primarily found in whole plant foods such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and they play a vital role in fighting disease through scavenging free radicals that cause aging and diseases such as cancer. Fiber is also a crucial part of an important healthy diet to excrete excessive cholesterol and rid the body of toxins. Yet the average American gets about 11 grams of fiber a day, which is only a third of what the average Chinese person gets, of 33 grams of fiber a day. It's nice to have a variety of fruits in the diet to get the spectrum of phytochemicals that are available. So try to eat a little bit from the rainbow, so you cover your bases that way. So is anyone interested in trying to go vegan now? All right, so I'll share with you some tips. This gentleman, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, the author of Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, has successfully helped scores of patients get rid of their heart disease through following a plant-based diet. And he was taking care of patients who had been told by their expert cardiologists to go home and die, and they ended up living for another 20 years in thriving health thanks to their change to a plant-based diet. This individual, Dr. Williams, is a cardiologist and the president of the American Cardiology College, and himself is also vegan, and he recommends that diet to his patients. Dr. Neil Bernard, the founder of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, has written scores of books and conducted studies showing that a low-fat plant-based diet successfully reverses type 2 diabetes. There are so many cases now of people completely getting off all their medications and living healthfully without the need for insulin after switching to a plant-based diet. Dr. Michael Greger has a wealth of information at his website, nutritionfacts.org, about just about every health topic you could think of and how nutrition and diet impacts that. So if you're ready to take the plunge, I'd like to share with you some tips on how you can do that successfully. It's important to be patient with yourself. Take the time to adjust to new routines. It's understandable if you can't do it all at once, but take those steps that you need. Seek out healthy places to eat. There are a lot of restaurants that offer vegan options. There are supermarkets that offer options, farmers markets. Look for local vegan and vegan-friendly restaurants, which you can find on Happy Cow. And we're going to share with you this vegan Kickstart program from PCRM, which you can sign up for free on their website, pcrm.org. There are so many different colorful vegetables, and this is the power plate, which is what the PCRM Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine came up with as a good alternative to the USDA plate, which, although it has evolved from its pyramid, still has influences from animal agribusiness, as you can see with the dairy. That's due to conflicts of interest that are pretty powerful. The animal agribusiness lobby influences what is recommended by the USDA. So here's a way of thinking of a vegan food pyramid. You want to emphasize whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, rye, millet, whole wheat. Have healthy servings of fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, and make sure you take a B12 supplement. B12 is the only supplement that must be supplemented for vegans because it is found in animal products, but it is actually produced by bacteria. So the best form of it is sublingual B12, meaning underneath the tongue. You can get it at Whole Foods Market or Trader Joe's. And there may be other nutrients. If you're not getting enough sun, you may need to take a vitamin D supplement as well. But for iron, you can get plenty of iron from plant sources such as beans, green leafy vegetables, and whole grains, and having something that contains vitamin C, like orange juice or tomatoes, with your iron-rich foods helps to enhance the iron absorption. You also want to make sure you eat some healthy fats like avocados and walnuts, flax seeds for omega-3s, and good sources of calcium include kale, broccoli, collard greens, sesame seeds, beans, and fortified non-dairy milks. For more information, visit veganhealth.org. Some ideas for breakfast include fresh fruit, oatmeal with raisins and cinnamon, almond rice milk or soy milk, tofu scramble instead of scrambled eggs. You can see there's such a colorful array of options in the plant kingdom. Lunch and dinner ideas, bean soups are really filling and nutritious. Tofu vegetable stir-fry, brown rice, and vegetable potato stew. You can tell from the food we had today. Did everyone like the food, by the way?
Delicious.
Good. A lot of great options with ethnic cuisines here. So just go ahead and explore what's out there. Forks Over Knives has a recipe and transition assistance program with an app for your smartphone to make it easy and fun to plan plant-based meals. This is a picture from Albertsons here locally that shows so many vegan options. They have Gardein, meatless burgers, and other brands of plant-based meat alternatives. And this is a depiction of the restaurants in this area that have vegan options, or actually are completely vegan. All these green dots represent a completely vegan restaurant in this greater San Pedro area. So this is an app you can install on your phone, and it's really convenient. I use it all the time when I'm out and about. I'm a house call vet, so I may be in a different area sometimes, and I use it. It's very convenient. So here's some additional resources. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM.org. They're the ones that have the 21-day vegan kickstart that sends you recipes and nutrition tips. Veganhealth.org, drgreger.org, VegSource, Happy Cow, Forks Over Knives, and that's a really great documentary that shows people reversing their type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and cancer with a plant-based diet. And then Cowspiracy talks about the environmental impacts that Daniela alluded to. So thank you for your attention, and we'd love to open it up to any questions or comments that people have.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any carcinogens in like the plant-based meats?
Carcinogens in plant-based meats.
Processed.
I would not expect to find them there. I would definitely opt for as minimally processed as feasible, like whole edamame, which is the soybeans, are healthier than the processed like soy protein. I would stay away from the genetically modified soy, so look for non-GMO and organic. And certainly the more processed it is, there could be more issues that we don't know about yet, that haven't been studied yet perhaps. But in terms of comparing that to the health effects of eating what we know clearly is carcinogenic, and plus that's also got those concentrated toxins that we're not going to find in the plant foods, I would say the plant meats are definitely much healthier. It can be viewed as a transitional food because since a lot of people have that craving for that type of texture, it can be seen as a food to help wean one off of the meat in the process. And I mean, I don't eat that food every day. I eat a lot of beans, rice, corn, potatoes. Those are the basic staples that people have thrived on for millennia throughout the ages. And so the diseases of affluence is what we're seeing here in this country because of the meat and dairy intensive diets. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think eating a balanced variety of whole foods is certainly preferable to processed.
And try organic better.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
What do you say to people who say plants have feelings?
Plants have feelings too. Okay, well this is what I say, and of course I've heard that many times. I'm a veterinarian, I took biology, and animals have a central nervous system that allows them to pull away from a painful stimulus. If I touch a hot stove and I say ouch and I pull my hand away, I can remove myself from the painful stimulus. A plant, by contrast, doesn't have the locomotive apparatus to move away from a painful stimulus. Now these dogs and cats, and well in other countries they are eating dogs and cats, but in this country pigs, chickens, and cows that are being confined don't have the luxury of moving away because they're in cages. But if they weren't in cages, they would be moving away when someone tried to brand them with a hot iron or cut their beak off without anesthesia or any of the horrid things that go on. So that's one thing. It's clearly apparent that animals have a central nervous system, plants do not. Now, if someone is so concerned about plants that this is a real issue and they're not just making this as a way to kind of yank your chain or something, if they really think that, the other thing I would bring up is that if they really care about plants, they should eat a plant-based diet, because by eating animals, they're actually consuming 12 times as many plants indirectly by consuming the animal who consumed the plants that had to be consumed by that animal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just wanted to see what your answer was.
Sure, yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? We have some literature to share with you with recipes and nutrition tips.
But we're gonna do a quick trivia and get you some CDs.
Yes.
So do anybody remembers the UN study of 2006? What was the percentage of livestock contribution to greenhouse gases? Nobody? The 2006, what?
56.
No, 2006.
90.
No.
99. 99%.
Did I
Okay,
word
I
it
think
wrong?
she's asking what's the percentage that livestock contributes to greenhouse gas emissions according to the 2009 World
2006.
2006. Oh, okay.
Because there were two.
That might be a hard question to pronounce.
99. 93%.
No.
21.
No.
Too much.
95?
Okay, maybe you ask another question.
Okay.
About health.
Okay, so how much more likely is it for an American man to die of heart disease compared to a Chinese man?
I have a question about the statistics. I may have missed it. I can't
Oh,
remember.
okay.
Sorry.
Hi.
A lot of those facts you were comparing to people in China. Why is that? And I may have missed
Oh.
it. So I'm sorry.
Well, in the beginning I was talking about the China Project, which was part of the China Study, which is a comprehensive nutritional study that was conducted in the 70s, comparing diets and disease outcomes amongst different parts of China. And it was conducted by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and it showed drastically lowered rates of mortality associated with cardiovascular disease and certain forms of cancer in populations eating a plant-based diet compared to those eating more animal-based diets.
Oh, I see.
I'm just gonna hand
Okay.
this to people that.
Okay, so I guess another question is, what is, well, I'll just ask more of an open-ended question. So if you were paying attention, you'd probably have the answer. What is a good source of calcium in the plant kingdom? Oh, you got it. Very good. She answered correctly. Kale and collard greens. Also beans, fortified non-dairy milk, sesame seeds. And does anyone know how you can improve your absorption of iron? What you can do while you're having your iron-rich food to enhance the iron absorption?
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C. Very good.
Well, I already gave you the trivia, man.
Okay.
Service.
So definitely watch Forks Over Knives. These were provided by the director of the film, and it's a very life-changing film that doesn't have any graphic footage, but it does show how people have transformed their lives. These are some other documentaries that are really worthwhile. Cowspiracy we talked about. Also, whatthehealthfilm.com, which came out recently. You can stream it online, and it shows how people got off a lot of medications, and also some of the deception that we've been victimized by due to the heavy marketing by some of these corporations that have influenced even nonprofit organizations like the American Heart Association and American Diabetic Association that get funds from these corporations. So it's important to be aware of that. Earthlings talks about what animals go through. So I know we're running low on time, but is anyone else having any last question, or should we?
Thanks everyone for showing up, driving all the way here.
We have dessert.
Strawberry.